And hello YouTube, this is the next episode of Valiant to the Last, my YouTube series of me reading through the entirety of the Valiant universe for the first time, deluxe hardcover by deluxe hardcover. And today's episode is Bloodshot. So this is the Bloodshot oversized hardcover, deluxe edition number 1. There's the cover, there's the spine, and here is the back. This is a whale in the sense that it is a collected edition, be that hardcover, omnibus or trade paperback, that is out of print and very hard to find. And this is extremely hard to find on Amazon and eBay. This goes for quite a lot of money in the secondary aftermarket, the sales market. I got this as a gift, so I'm very touched that I got this. I do really like the cover, and I was really interested to read it. So, got the inside flap there. Got the inside flap of the creators here. So let me just move that out of the way. And this is what it looks like. Similar to the Harbinger one we saw last week, this has a nice kind of title across it. Nice bit on the back there. And then that's all plain. So again, Harbinger and Harbinger and Bloodshot have kind of a thematic motif in terms of putting the logo on the cover, whereas Divinity did not. So again, Divinity kind of stands out in terms of the reading I've done so far. Let's have a look at the end pages. Really simple, blood red, very predictable. I imagine that took them about 2 seconds in the design department to come up with that. And then let's jump straight into it. So, Bloodshot, book 1. This contains a total of 13 issues. I say that because I haven't read them all. What I read was the first 4, which is the trade paperback Setting the World on Fire, and then I read the next 5, which is a trade paperback The Rise and Fall, and I didn't read from issue 10, 11, 12 and 13, because these are part of Harbinger Wars. Now, in the last video I did for Harbinger Volume 1, I stopped before I got to the Harbinger crossover issues, and this time I also stopped before I got to the Harbinger crossover issues, because in the next video, my next week's Valiant hardcover read is going to be the Harbinger Wars Deluxe Edition, which contains all these issues and all the issues from the Harbinger volume that I didn't read, and the actual Harbinger Wars 4-issue miniseries. So I've only read this, and I haven't read this, but that's to give you an explanation of why. Already this makes me kind of raise an eyebrow about how these deluxe editions are collected, but I'm going to reserve judgment until I've actually read the Harbinger Wars event, and that way I can judge whether or not these issues work as standalone, self-contained, or whether or not they're fundamentally important parts of this crossover event. So in other words, whether essential or non-essential issues. Okay, so there's the 4 covers for the 4 comics that are in this first collection, Setting the World on Fire, and then we get straight into it. So, yeah, I love this opener. This is kind of almost Jonathan Hickman-esque kind of information dump about Bloodshot nanites and how they all work and stuff. Yeah, generally this was cool. This was a good comic. I enjoyed it quite a lot. Pretty gruesome, pretty crazy. It was much more enjoyable than Harbinger. I felt like I really understood the characterization, the depth of characterization of the main character, Bloodshot. The artwork was strong. I mean, the artwork is consistently strong in all the Valiant I've read so far. And yeah, it was well paced, it was well plotted, it was well characterized. The supporting characters, both of which were women, are actually, here they are, Kara and Pulse. They're both characterized really well and are very engaging. So in a lot of ways, this was really very, very different to the Harbinger hardcover. It was much more satisfying in terms of narrative. It was much more satisfying in terms of characterization. It didn't have any kind of problematic or questionable elements in terms of writing that were a bit uncomfortable. This was just really good, really solid action. Getting into the second trade paperback there. Where's the separation page? Here, Rise and Fall, and it shows the 5 covers there. Yeah, and like I say, it was just really good. It had twists, it had turns, it had a couple of moments that were, if not cliffhangers, actually did make me kind of take an audible intake of breath. It had villains and twists and losses that really, yeah, I thought this is just outright good. It was enjoyable, and I very much liked it. and it definitely has me interested in reading more of this. So I hope that tone is maintained for the Harbinger Wars crossover. So as you can see here, this is the Harbinger Wars issues, as you can see, which I will do like that. It's not giving any spoilers. But here are the 4 comics that are in the Harbinger Wars trade for Bloodshot, and I haven't read any of them, so I will read those as I go along. Yeah, so that's my thought. Nice and quick and easy. I'm not going to tell you much about Bloodshot or what he is or what he does, because if you don't know anything about it, so much the better. He's basically like a soldier who's just awesomely powerful. And the artwork is very cool. Here's all the background art and the sort of development stuff for it, all the extra features, which is always great to see. Yeah, basically I enjoyed this. I would recommend it, and I would happily pick this up as a hardcover, so I'm very glad that I did. I'm aware I've said very little about sort of the idea and the story here, whereas before, perhaps with Harbinger, the last hardcover that I spoke about, I gave a bit more detail. But the reason for that is I feel Bloodshot performs much better if you go into it completely blind. That said, the one thing I knew about Bloodshot before I actually read it was I'd watched the movie. I know, it's a Vin Diesel movie, so immediately questionable. However, I will tell you this movie is really good. It's one of the best action movies of the year. I mean, admittedly, it came out during the pandemic and competition was a bit thin on the ground, but nonetheless, this was really, really enjoyable. I might be slightly biased because, firstly, I do quite like Vin Diesel movies, and secondly, I watched this the day after watching Wonder Woman 1984, which was abysmal as far as I was concerned. And so this was a film that I was planning on watching and going, this is also abysmal. And then literally 10 minutes in, I was kind of like, is this actually really good? And it is really good. In fact, and this is an important thing I should point out, having watched this first and then read the comic, I can genuinely say that from a narrative perspective, in terms of how the story unfolds and how the writing allows you to engage with the character in different ways, the film is superior to the comic. I know this is a controversial opinion. I know it's bold. However, what I will say is it did work better in the movie. Like, admittedly, the end of the movie gets a little bit stupid. But especially the first half of it is a much stronger than the opening part of the Bloodshot comic. And in fact, while I was reading the first couple of issues of this, I did find myself wondering why they didn't go for a much longer slow burn in the comic of having 3 or 4 issues before you really start to unpick what's going on and understand Bloodshot's true nature, rather than just give it to you in the first issue, which is what they do here. So that's the only thing I would say to you guys. Check out the Bloodshot movie. It's really good. And I watched it before I read Bloodshot, and frankly, I think that's totally fine to do it that way, in fact, because the movie, to some extent, gives you a really good background as to who Bloodshot is, but even better than the comic does, and the narrative at the start of the movie is great. Right, I'll just leave that there. Let's try and keep it short and sweet, guys. So that was the Bloodshot Deluxe Edition. The next video that I'll be doing will be next week, which will be of the Harbinger Wars hardcover, which I have, which contains the latter part of the Harbinger Volume 1 that I didn't read, and the latter part of this hardcover, which I didn't read, and it combines it all in the first summer crossover event that Valiant had, which was Harbinger Wars. So if you're reading along with me, feel free to read that, and I will catch you on the next video. Alright, thanks for watching, everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at @IamThomasJudge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.